What is up? Welcome to this week's episode of Lambgoat's Vanflip podcast. I am joined by Brandan Schieppati, longtime metalcore guy. He's been a longtime metalcore guy, Orange County band, Bleeding Through, metalcore with a little bit of dark and horror vibes in it, which has always been kind of like a standout for you guys. You guys are on a decent run, 25 plus years. You guys have celebrated that recently, but you also have another album in the chamber. So you got album number 9, titled 9. You got a couple singles out already, but you're on the run again, not on the run, but doing the whole rigmarole again. And man, I'm glad to have you on the podcast finally. I've been a big fan since Trustkill days and Love is Murderous and stuff like that. That's awesome. So yeah, it's been good to
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. So how's it been? I mean, you guys got a new album coming out. You guys got the 25-year anniversary under your belt already. So what's been going on? How's it been?
I mean, things have been good. I mean, it's kind of cliche to say things are kind of better than ever for a lot of bands and people in this industry and stuff like that. But for us, it really is. I mean, 25 years of doing this band, and we took a little bit of a few year breather in the middle of that. But I highly recommend that for any band that wants to continue to do this and have fun again. It was like a stress break for us. I feel like things that kind of happen for a reason. And a lot of times when you get to a 25 year, it's kind of a pain in the ass, or further in the band's career, it might be a pain in the ass to keep doing your band. There's always gonna be people. It's really hard to keep lineups together long, but I've been very fortunate to have a big, the core of Bleeding Through has been together for a really long time, and it's awesome. I think that the last few years, especially since COVID, we have a little bit more, we enjoy this a little bit more. We have an extreme sense of gratitude towards the opportunities that we've been given, to do this band, getting to travel all over the world, playing this music that that's just weird to me. You know what I mean?
I get it.
It's awesome. Right. And it's also, I think we're just doing, overall better as a band because, we've always really carried this with us, but we really don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, as you shouldn't, but
we do, but we give a fuck about what we give a fuck about, and we really don't give a fuck about things that whether they're an outside opinion or something that somebody else thinks we need to do, or any sort of direction. We do what we do, and that is what we do. We say no a lot, and that is something I like, that we know exactly who we are, and we always have who we are. But really, it's such a narrowed path for this band. We have such a strong bond of a friendship with this band. And I just think that we just really do not take a shred of it for granted anymore.
Yeah. Interesting.
And for a long time we did. And how could you not? It was easy for so fucking long. It was just dude.
You guys were so young too. Oh, you're young and you hit it.
We're young. All of a sudden we're starting to make money. You know what I mean? That was weird. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. So we could support ourselves off this music. You know what I mean? And it was all something that it's a band's journey, Volcano. You're going to get to a certain point, and if you don't reach that point where you're getting into the realm of Avenged Sevenfolds of the world, and bands like Motionless in White, so it's kind of that next level of things. That's kind of that's a gut checkpoint for a lot of bands that are doing it for so long. You have to ask yourself, why am I doing this band? Can I continue to do this with the same intensity and passion? And what am I doing it for? And I think that we're all very unified in why we do this band and what the purpose of this band is for us. So things are good right now. I mean, we can't complain.
Yeah.
We play where we want to play. We do what we want to do. We don't feel pressure to do anything else.
Yeah. Was that a reason why you guys came to a crossroads and then kind of took a step back? Was that one of the reasons, cause you kind of musically were you were just saying, you either go one route where you, I don't want to say sell out, but you just kind of make more marketable music, and then or you just continue what you're doing with the status that you're currently doing at, which maybe when you get older isn't, easy as easy.
It was a weird thing. Sorry to cut you off. It was a weird thing. We've never been a band to really we never really we've never taken that step to try to like, this is our, more commercialized record or whatever the fuck. Like we never really have, like, people can argue and say like the truth was that record, but really it's an aggressive as fuck record. And
I was just listening to it.
And it's like, I loved it because after that record, everybody thought we were going to go straight to like the Treyus of the world or try to do what 18 Visions was trying to do. And then we wrote Declaration, which was like kind of like a proggish black metal record, just to kind of be like, yeah, go fuck yourself. Like, we're just going to do what we want to do. So we've always sort of been that, but there always was that outside pressure for us by, whether label management agents that we had, the circle of people that worked for this band that really just like, they weren't letting it be fun for us. Like it was just everything back then was such a pissing contest. And it is now still just done through sort of like analytics now. Right, analytics are the thing that people piss over. And before it was like, at least it was as simple as like, okay, we have more people at this show than that person, or we sold like this amount of records, or you know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. But that was stuff that like we really, we were still touring at a really high rate where our shows were still really good. We still had that connection with our people, and we got to play with such rad bands and stuff, but the industry was different. It's like, we did hit a point where like, this is us, but that point wasn't to the point where we could operate that band at the moment without the stresses of people in the band wanting to have kids or take steps to establish something that's going to be like the next step of their life. Like for example, like I wanted to start a gym. I wanted to start this part of my business. If I would have kept going on with Bleeding Through the way it was going at that moment, this wouldn't happen. I wouldn't have had a chance to step back. Marta opened a bar and had children, and like other people had children, and it was just, life had to happen. So we kind of talked about just kind of taking like a break to be like, okay, we can't keep doing these tours where everyone's stressing out about money the whole fucking time, because it absolutely ruins everything. Yeah. And every night I felt like it was just harder to get through, and we weren't enjoying ourselves as much as we were before. We weren't enjoying this music. We were very short-sighted with seeing things. We'd play a great show, but like merch wouldn't be so good. So we'd be bummed out. And I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we doing right now? Like, that is never the way I wanted this to be. But we were caught up in it. So it was a really good opportunity for us to step back and reflect and establish and sort of like see what we care about and see what we don't fucking care about. Yeah. And I felt like that really kind of helped us screw our heads on straight and really just kind of be like, okay, this band is, it's a huge major part of our life, but it's not the only part of our life, but it is probably the most fun part of our life. So let's have it be the most fun part of our life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It does become like you were saying, like a hassle, because there are things that are all, especially when you get to a certain level where you guys, were at early on. I mean, you're touring the world. I mean, I remember watching like all your DVDs or the DVDs that you guys would put out back in the day. And, you know, as a person who like, I did tour as well, but on a much smaller level, I didn't get any kind of cool recognition or not. But we would go out on weeks tours, and it would be stressful. And again, worrying about money. Good Lord. I mean, like, if you were worried about money, could you imagine us, like, having to pay to get to every show? It's not, like, we're not making money. So that was also a stress, too. But, I mean, that was at the time where, like, we, at least, were living with our parents and had other support going on where we were, like, dumb enough to fully focus on, just creating the art and touring and stuff like that. But, like you said, there comes a time where you're in the van for, like, these long bouts of time just going interpersonal, like, going, like, what the hell am I doing?
Totally. Yeah. And you know what? One of the things that we started to do, and I don't mind saying this, we have tremendous friends that we've, that have like been with us for like so many bands that we've been friends with for like 20 years, which is like, wow, that's just so cool to be able to share, like, still be able to like, share parts of our life with like people that have been in it for that long. It's fucking incredible. But when we were in it, like, I lost the ability to like coexist and have like my friends back. Yeah. Like I'd be getting like jealous of shit. And I'm like, what? And looking back on it, it's so dumb. But I realized like, fuck, like I can't just be happy for my friend's band anymore because I want that. Right. I started asking myself like, why not us? Why not us? And it was just like, there's no answer for that. Like, and that's what I feel like younger bands should understand is stop asking yourself, why not you? Stop asking yourself like, I don't like stop saying like I don't get it. Like Knocked Loose isn't even that good. Well, yes, they are, and they hit it right at the right time, and their work ethic is getting them there. You are sitting back saying, "Why not us?" They are sitting back and saying, "Us."
Yeah,
they're moving forward and saying, "Us."
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
They were around for a long time. They were around for a long time before all that.
What's that?
They were around for a long time before they popped.
Oh my gosh, yeah, man. They've been pounding the pavement, man. And like the thing is like there's just stop asking that and just focus on like what you're doing. And people are either gonna fucking like it or they're not. It's literally that simple. Like put the work ethic towards what you believe in and your passion, and people are either gonna like it or not.
Yeah. That's
the name of this game. You cannot make everybody like your band.
No. But it's also
I love that people hate our band still.
I mean,
because what's funny to me is I'm like, we weren't a band that like tried to take all these tremendous swings and write embarrassing music. We're fucking good people. We played great live, and like, I love it. And my simplest answer is we're just too attractive, and your girlfriends or wives like us.
Yeah, that probably is it. And you got like, you were like a large band at the time too for like that time in history. Like you had like multiple members, and I remember like. God, you had like 6 people on stage at one point, which, you know.
Yeah, we still do.
Yeah, for the time. I mean, it's a little more accepted these days, but like before it's like,
it's 3 short of Slipknot.
Yeah. And all you really need, you can, the programmer and the DJ, they don't really do much, like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But being jealous of the other people in the scene and whatnot, that's something that a lot of, I mean, like, I also am guilty of that in my life and currently, like, you know, I'll see other things go on and be like, damn, I want that. But then I just use it to drive myself a little bit, you know, further down the road rather than like dwell on like the knots and then have knots.
Yeah.
Like,
use it as a positive motivator, not a negative like deterrent. You know what I mean? Like have your friends' band's backs.
Right.
And just see it as inspiration instead of like, fuck, why not us? You know what I mean?
And there's also a piece for everybody in reality. Like you could have a bunch of hardcore bands, metalcore bands, metal bands, or whatever. They're all going to have their different audiences. Just like, you know, Lambgoat has its own audience.
Total.
Other websites have their own audience. There are a few that overlap that visit multiple ones, but just like someone's going to like Bleeding Through and someone's going to like Knocked Loose, and there's going to be a lot of people that like both. And some people won't like the either or, but that's just how that is.
And prime example of a band that has its own audience, I feel like, is my band. Like Bleeding Through is like over the years created our own audience.
Right.
And that's now what we're starting to see is that audience is like, we're seeing like that work now because, you know, we're drawing more people than we have like kind of like almost ever. You know what I mean? And it's fucking awesome, but it's like, it's a testament to our fans' loyalty, and we're like obsessed with our fan base. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's also just about like, you know, we did what we wanted. We did what we did. We did what we wanted to do. We did tours with bands like him and like AFI and like shit that did not make sense because I'm like, dude, like there's a piece of us for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, so now I think we're really seeing that when we're at this point of our career, because let's be real. Like, yeah, our new record's coming out and it's fucking awesome and blah, 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 blah. And it's on Sharp Tone, which has all these younger bands. Right. Man, those young kids are not going to start listening to my band. Like they're just,
you never know. You never, I will say this.
You might get, let's say they'll get 1 out of every like 50 people. You know what I mean? Like
True.
Say that, which is fine with me, whatever. But like, so really at the time we're at, it's like, we are surviving and off of like the fan base that we've built over the last like 25 years. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. And I got to give credit to some of the younger kids. They do deep dive. I will give some credit.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Some don't. I didn't when I was a kid. I just kind of was like,
I was like I dove in, man. Yeah. Like, you know, but it's so depressing when like I go up to like a kid that's wearing like a Thy Artist Murder shirt and I'm just like, you know, in conversation, and they're like, "Oh, what band are you?" I'm like, "Oh, Bleeding Through," and they're like, "Oh, never heard of it." I'm like, "Fuck."
Yeah, no.
Like for real?
Well, I mean, you guys were still around. You guys were still around back in the day. Like, and again, you were on Trustkill, which was a big fucking label for hardcore and metalcore at the time. I mean, the early 2000s, like Ferret, Ferret, and Trustkill were like monumental, as well as like a couple other hardcore and Metal Blade records and stuff like that. But yeah those releases were so monumental, you know?
What a crazy time.
Very.
like, you know what I mean? Like, so much has been said about like a lot of those labels, like, and you know, the way that they just didn't pay bands, and you know, we're one of them, and with Trustkill, and you know, just the way they just didn't account royalties. But the thing is like, you know, we were so pissed off about that for so long, and it's one of those things where like, dude, like, you gotta just forget it and move on. Like, that time was so fast moving, and you remember, so fast moving. I never thought I would be in a. I remember one month listening to people talk about how amazing it was that the Lamb of God record got to 10,000 as the Palace Burns got to 10,000 records sold. And I'm like, oh my God, imagine if a band like Bleeding Through could sell 10,000 records. Yeah. And it was like, within that next like half a year, shit just went nuts for like everyone. Right. And it was like, it was so fast moving, but it was also fast moving for like labels and stuff. So it's like, all of a sudden they went from like dishing out records and putting shit together with like one employee in a fucking basement somewhere to like, fuck, now we're selling like 100,000 records a fucking month combined of our shit. Like, we don't have our shit together. So they're reaching out to all these other subsidiaries and fucking and distribution and signing all these bad deals, and accounting's through the fucking mess. Like, I'm not surprised that like you don't really find a band at our age when was putting out records back then. You can't really. Dark Sour has nothing good to say about Victory Records. No one really has anything good to say about Victory Records.
No,
but you know, like there's a lot of bands that have like a lot of animosity to Trustkill, and a lot of bands that had animosity to Ferret, and it's because shit was a mess. They weren't trying to fucking rip us off. They just didn't know what the fuck they were doing either. Yeah. We didn't know what we were doing either. Yeah. It was like, here's this new thing that's just exploding out of fucking nowhere. We're going to go from like playing fucking, I don't know, a fucking coffee shop little stage place to now these venue, like big venues. It was overwhelming.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, because I started getting into it early 2000s, late, maybe like 99, 2000 or whatever. And then, you know, at the time, the resources were very limited. There weren't, I mean, Lambgoat was around in the early 2000s and like the PRP and a couple other like outlets, but they weren't really necessarily covering every band either. So like, you know, you guys had a couple of videos on MTV2 late night and stuff like that back in the day when MTV was still playing music videos. And even then people were complaining that they didn't play music then. So if you can imagine how it is now, it's completely musicless. But yeah, I mean, like I got a hold of like some samplers, I'm sure, some Trustkill samplers or some kind of like, you know, big comps that had like 20 bands on it, and you guys were on there, and like Wings of Lead and all this other shit that you guys from This Is Murderous or whatever. Yeah. And, I mean, I was big Boondock Saints fan back in the day, and you guys had some fucking, you know, clips, and so we always still quote that shit. This is a firefight. I mean, with the snare hit. That's like synonymous. We don't just do the Boondock Saints. We're like, this is a fire.
No, you got to go snare right after that.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about that is they reached out to us, and when they did the All Saints Day, which was like the part 2, they actually like invited us to like the red carpet event, and they like sent us like a letter of like, hey, like, or an email like, you know, thank you. Like, usually we wanted to, you know, shut people down that were using samples from a movie, but like they actually like said like, thank you for actually helping making it like a pulp culture fucking movie. Interesting. Which I thought was probably the coolest thing about that release, to be honest. That letter.
Did you have to ask permission, or did you guys just like DIY and just use it? Yeah, okay.
Fuck. Who do you even ask permission from back then?
I don't know, dude. I'm just curious.
What is permission?
Yeah, I asked for forgiveness later on, but hey, it worked out. I mean, you guys got the red carpet treatment for the second movie. So speaking of the new record, you had a couple singles come out in the last couple months or last couple weeks.
Yeah.
The most recent one, you guys had Andrew from Comeback Kid on there for this song, I Am Resistance. How did that come about? Like, and then, you know, because not that you guys have vastly different styles and bands, I mean, like musically, but obviously you're kind of like a more dark hardcore metalcore band, and they're kind of more of like a punk hardcore band. Like, how did that transpire? How did that come to fruition?
Well, we the first time we toured with Comeback Kid was a fucking insane tour. If you think about the lineup of it, it was in 2002, and it was, let's see, wait, no, This Is Murderous was out. So 2, maybe 3, maybe early 2003. And the tour was us, Between the Buried and Me, and Come Back In. What a tour.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Can we do that fucking tour again, please?
Yeah.
Nope, because now there's management, there's fucking all this shit that's putting up roadblocks, and it's all bullshit. See how cool it was back then? No, it'll never be that cool again.
Did you guys just like hit each other up to tour back then? I mean, I didn't know. I'm sure there were like, people, but
I met the guys, and we played a show with the guys in Between the Buried and Me in... Fuck, I can't even fucking remember. We played with them in North Carolina, and I knew Tommy just from some other shit. I think Undying or something. He might have been playing guitar for Undying when I first met him. And they weren't signed. And we played with them like, this band is fucking incredible, right? Like, they're incredible. And I actually tried to get them signed at the time. Bleeding Through was signed to Indecision Records. And I'm like, yo, Indecision should put them out. Imagine Between the Buried and Me on Indecision Records. Like, well, but seriously, so I was like, we kind of became friends like that. And then we played with Comeback Kid, and I just liked Comeback Kid. And we sort of became like Insta friends playing a show. And then literally, like, I just reached out and was like, hey, like, let's do a tour together. And everyone was like, sure, let's fucking do it. And then, you know, we just put together like a 3-week tour. It was fucking cool, man. Like, so we've known Comeback Kid for a really long time. And we've done multiple tours, a couple tours in the States. We've done Europe with them. We've done a bunch of stuff. And even though, like, stylistically, it's like we're more like black metalcore band, like whatever the fuck. And they're, you know, just still very, like, raw, like, punk hardcore. Yeah. Right. And it's like, it makes sense, though. Like, energy-wise, it kind of, like, goes together. And I like diversity and stuff. And we all kind of come from the same place. And I've always really loved Andrew's voice. You know, I thought he elevated that band when he took over the role. And I've just always had this like idea of like doing some sort of a collab with like my friends. Like, I want people that I've known in this industry and people that I'm fans of to try to sing on our record. And so this record, I wrote the song I'm Resistance, and that chorus part, I'm just like kind of thinking, I'm like, you know what? Like, I feel like Andrew would be good on this part. Like, it's just, I feel like it's made for Andrew. And so I just hit him up and see if he'd do it. And yeah. And like, it's fucking cool. I like the contrast. I know it's weird because people think it's so weird, but I'm like, well, dude, like, we all kind of come from the same area. Right. And like, back then it wasn't weird because there wasn't 1,000 Bleeding Throughs and there wasn't 1,000 Comeback Kids.
There weren't 1,000 bands.
Here's the bands, and we all just play together, you know?
I do think back about that time frame and go like, there's only like this many bands. You know, like whatever bands were on the labels, that's all. And now it's like there's so many bands, you know what I mean?
It's absurd.
Like, yeah.
I mean, like, it's funny because it's like, you know, I own a gym and we just play music on Spotify like all day through this fucking place. And I'm just like, this is dope. And I'll go out and like look at the fucking iPad and I'm like, who the fuck is this? And then kind of wormhole and shit. And it's just a dude that's just a studio musician guy like by himself.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And
I'm
like, this in 2005 would have been the biggest fucking band in the planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it's crazy. There's just so much.
Yeah,
there's a lot more resources for bands to grow as musicians and sort of expand. I think a lot of bands that are our age find it. I know we're going super off topic, but whatever. That's what I do. I think there's a lot of bands our age that are grumpy about how easy it is to put songs together and how easy it is to have things that will clean up imperfections and whatever the fuck. But I think it's a tool to just progression of music. Like, there's always going to be purity in something that is not so produced, but there's also something that, like, that's just the way they do it now. They like to, that's the sound, you know what I mean? And it's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, also not a lot of people, and again, it's probably generational, you know, at this point, but like, I don't necessarily want my metalcore, hardcore, metal, or you know, extreme music to be like super polished, you know, because I come from a time frame where like even in the 2000s, it didn't sound like it did in the early 90s or 80s, and there's people that hated on the new sound then. So like, imagine now, you know, 25 years later with recording equipment being so much better and just like you said, tools that everyone can actually have, like AI tools to clean up this, that, the other, or remove this, that, the other. But again, you know,
bro, I just can't believe how many good drummers there are now. Like, are you kidding? Like you were in a fucking band in the fucking early 2000s.
Yeah.
Finding a drummer
near
was
impossible.
Yeah. And now it's like there's just fucking dudes and women, men, whatever the fuck, that just rip at drums, man. And it's like that's the incredible part to me. The only part I have an issue with newer recordings are vocals. Like it's just because I don't understand technique. I mean, I do, but like I know a lot of it's technique based. But I find when you look at like, let's just look at like my era of like bands. Like you look at Darkest Hour, As Lay Dying, Unearth, Killswitch Engage, Shadows Fall, Lamb of God, Us, Norma Jean, Every Time I Die. Distinct singer voices. Yeah. Like you know who the fucking people are. Like, Black Dahlia Murder, fucking all these bands. Like, you know by listening, like, that's so-and-so. I don't know who everything sounds exactly the fucking same. And it's the most over-exaggerated voice, which is like, it almost makes me kind of giggle sometimes. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, dude, come on, man.
I noticed that a couple of years ago too. Like they would and I've talked to some of these guys too that have these like accounts or these side gigs where they have some kind of like vocal school, technique school or whatever. Yeah. And like,
which is cool.
It is, but anyone can make any kind of, or for the most part, a lot of people can make a lot of the sounds that people, maybe couldn't back in the day. Like you were saying, back in the day, I feel like whatever I was doing, that's how that's my scream, that's my sound.
Yeah.
And that's that. And I feel like that's how it was for everybody else too. Whereas now it's like, oh, to get the Brandan Schieppati fucking vocals, you got to do this with your throat, you got to do this with your vocal cords, and you got to like breathe in a little bit, and someone's like hacked it a little bit,
I mean, respect for the craft. I mean, my voice is just carved out of just like not giving a fuck.
Yeah, just screaming into the microphone. Just that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I sound good tonight, guys. Here we go.
Yeah, that's crazy. So are you still like? I know you're doing a bunch of different things outside the band too. Are you still like managing bands and handling kind of stuff like that too?
Yeah, nice. I do. I manage a couple bands right now. I manage a band called Salt Wound from Northern California. They're on Sharp Tone.
Yeah.
They just finished up a short run with 156, Silence, and Victims, which is fucking like rad tour.
Aren't they also playing your sold out anniversary show or album release show?
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah.
They're sold out. You just sold that out.
Cool
Congratulations.
Band. Yeah, man, it's fucking cool. Salt Wound, and then a band called Last of Our Kind from Southern California put a record out on Good Fight, which is funny that we're talking about Ferret. But yeah, just like it's not like a big part of what I do, but I love doing it. I like seeing like how to create and kind of help lay the groundwork out for a lot of like younger bands. Yeah. I feel like a lot of bands could use more mentors, mainly because it's shocking how many people try to have influence on like younger bands, and it's like just too many voices. And I feel like a lot of bands that are trying to get out there, just try to figure out what you want to do and then do that. You know what I mean? It's like we're kind of going full circle. We talked about in the beginning, but yeah, I love managing.
You've done that for a little bit, right? Because you've had a hand in like Let Live.
I used to manage a fuck ton of bands in the early 10s. So like my roster was like crazy, like All Shall Perish, Let Live, For the Fallen Dreams,
Tony
Straight from the Path, Lionheart,
yeah,
Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza, which was awesome.
Yeah,
man. And then I kind of got burnt out because the management world is slimy as a motherfucker, dude.
I can see that.
It just is. Yeah. It's still pretty slimy, but I just laugh at people now. It's like, whatever. You know what I mean? I understand the way the business works, and it's like I don't take it personal. It's just some people's business tact is pretty alarming. Yeah. But it's also it is humbling. It is like I might be Brandan from Bleeding Through in a certain realm where people might find that valuable or whatever the fuck. But in the management world, it means nothing. So that's cool though. Yeah. Like it shouldn't mean fucking anything. What it does get me is sometimes it gets people to open an email once in a while.
That's the benefit. You know what I mean? That's a good benefit.
So that's cool.
So cold email is hard.
It's also a way for me to still like, I like to learn. I like to keep improving, like in any sort of industry I'm in. It definitely keeps me like on the ground and learning about like what is this industry now and what like the trends and where we're going and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Whether I listen to them or follow them is another story.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people like follow trends years later, even though they've been told that this is the trend and this is what way they should do, but it takes them a long time to figure it out, and they have to come to it in their own head, even though you could have someone with your best interest in mind telling you like, hey, this is probably the better option, but then the artist or the band has to come to their own way.
Everybody has a come to Jesus moment when they're in a band. Yeah. Like literally, like it's like, okay, like probably multiple times, you know.
Was one of your go ahead. I was going to cut you off, but if you're going to explain something else, go ahead. Cool.
Go.
Was one of your come to Jesus moments like when you were like, I need to just fully focus on Bleeding Through? Because I know you were like you were a fixture in a couple Orange County bands back in the day, and then I was curious as to like what made you decide to just kind of like focus on Bleeding Through. Was it the sound that you were going for? Because like it was a little different than the other bands you were associated with, like with the the keys and the horror vibes and the synth and the dark synth stuff. Like, what kind of made you want to go that route?
I mean, like when it comes down to like, let's just say 18 Visions and Throwdown. I always listened to black metal growing up. Like I was like an obscure weirdo that like listened to black metal, but also listened to like just death metal and just what like hardcore was like number one. But other than that, I like really got into like darker shit. So when I started playing in 18 Visions, our path was heavy because when I first saw 18 Visions for the first time, I was like, dude, this band's like dark. Like I love this shit. And then somehow fucking joined that band. And that was the direction we're going. We were the dark band in Orange County. We were kind of like the scary band. And I really, really enjoyed that. I felt that was like part of me. Throwdown days, that was just like, those dudes are my friends. We just played this music. It was like a hangout. I never really had any sort of like emotional kind of like emotional tie to that band. That was more just like, let's just play this rad music because it's fun, tour and play shows and hang out, right? But 18 Visions was mine. It was always my main. And then Bleeding Through came about because a friend of mine was like that I also listened to like At the Gates and Carcass and all that shit with Soilwork, Cradle of Filth. He saw me fill in for a show singing for Throwdown and was like, dude, we got to start a band. So that's how Bleeding Through started.
Interesting.
And then he started writing riffs and I started like writing my own lyrics and getting like that sort of emotion out of me, which I didn't know that I needed to get out of me. And it was like, that was like the therapy that I needed for like my head. Like I just knew it. I knew that was like it. Like the moment I put pen to paper and wrote a Bleeding Through song, I'm like, okay, this is different. This is the way that like, I'm going to put my like soul out into the fucking world and my emotions and all that shit. So Bleeding Through started playing a little bit more and it got like latched on. Like it just locally, people were like, I think people were ready for more of like an emotional approach to like the lyrical content so they can kind of get something out of it for their emotional issues or whatever the fuck they have going on. I found just great, like, I loved that. Like that just meant so much to me. So I left 18 Visions or I left Throwdown to do Bleeding Through and 18 Visions. And then 18 Visions just went more, I felt less of a connection to 18 Visions. Like the more and more it went, like lyrically did not care for the lyrics very much. They're cool, like very, very creative. But for me, like they meant nothing to me. And I guess when I started Bleeding Through, I never realized how much lyrics meant to me of any band, right? I mean, they always sort of did, but I kept playing 18 Visions shows and be like, I just don't feel anything for this. And then all of a sudden they just wanted to be Stunt Double Pilots. And I'm like, that's not me. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, and more power to them. And now they're back to being like a heavy band again, which is cool because I don't know. I haven't spoke to those dudes in a few years, but it's like, I'm glad they're playing heavy music. That's the music they're supposed to fucking play. That's what they're good at. And now that's the 18 Visions that I love. And I'm glad they're playing and I'm glad they're doing it. But it was clear for me, like the support Bleeding Through was getting needed full-time attention as a band, especially locally. Like it was kind of blowing up a little bit. Word was kind of getting other places. And we just realized that this needed to be our focus.
I honestly forgot how fucking much overlap there was between, those bands. Because like when I was doing some research and shit, I was like, because I only remembered you as a frontman. No disrespect. I only remembered you for Bleeding Through. I knew that maybe you had like moonlighted back in the day, here or there, but I didn't realize that you were like on until the. I mean, you're on a plethora of 18 Visions early shit.
Yeah, I'm a guitar player.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either until like later on after I already had listened to like This Is Love and Murder, but like you were on Until the Ink Runs Out, Best Of, and like the last one you were on was Vanity or whatnot. But I forgot, or I just didn't even realize that you had like overlapped that much because I only really knew you from like Bleeding Through live. At least.
I think I played like 3 shows where I played a set in every band, all 3 of those bands.
Did you get paid more?
Cool.
Did you get paid more?
I mean, dude, it was awesome. Like I loved playing for Throwdown. That was fun. There's elements I miss of 18 Visions still, of like the old 18 Visions. But yeah, that's so long ago. Yeah.
I have to piggyback on what you said. The latest new 18 Vision stuff is by far some of my favorite 18 Vision stuff, and I listened to it way back in the day as well. So
yeah,
and I love Obsession too.
Great,
I do love Obsession. I mean, I get that is like a different fucking thing, but
I'm okay with Obsession.
It's got a couple. The Papa Roach vibe is where I started kind of like 18 or whatever that after that, but they're back to it, man. I think they're getting it really well. Yeah.
This is what they need to be doing the whole time. You know what I mean?
I agree.
It's like, and I don't know, and I don't want to talk about it too much with them because whatever, but where we're from, like Orange County, like everybody took a step and succeeded. It felt like
it did.
You know what I mean? Like,
it did.
Mainly Avenged. It's like, but Avenged was different. Like Avenged is like from day one of becoming friends with them. Where they are now, that was the goal.
Oh, okay.
They weren't trying to like be down with people to be like, oh fuck, we made it. It was like, yeah, let's just play shows, and eventually we'll play arenas.
Well, that was like the goal. That's a weird. You know what I mean? That's a weird trajectory, though. They picked a weird trajectory just because they did start from like the same ballpark as everyone that we just were talking about.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you can tell that they were like, boink, they just went a different way, and they also went bigger and got bigger and bigger instead. Like City of Evil, probably around that, like Backcountry time. Those songs I think are Backcountry around that time just blew up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it did. It was crazy time. But then we all saw that, like Atreyu sort of followed suit of that, and 18 Visions was following suit, and other bands were even fucking Throwdown. The last like couple Throwdown records, I was just like, okay. Like, cool, go for it, guys. Like, if you think there's a market for this and this is what's going to, like, get you where you want to be, then do it. What the fuck do I have to say about it? Like, nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't need to fucking like it. And if I say I don't fucking like it, don't get so fucking mad about it.
Right. I can
you know what I mean? Like,
I agree to that. And I can also see why bands that have, like, 4 or 5 records already out at that particular time, I can see why they're thinking about doing something like that. I mean, because
it's like you get to a point where you're like, okay, like we're at a standstill. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like our standstill, we went opposite. Our standstill was like, hey, how about we just take a break?
Yeah.
You guys want to write a rock record? Nah, how about we just take a break?
Yeah. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, man. And I think a lot of people are like, tapping into that, and that's really good. But like speaking of the break, like what were you guys doing in the time frame? Was that the time that's the time you started your gym and shit, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I started putting my gym together in like 2010. The idea was to kind of like start doing it. I started training people and getting into training in 2009. And just saw like, I just realized that that's what I wanted to do. I was very passionate about it, still am. I'm a very big culture person. I want to build a culture, and I felt like there was a culture that was needed for fitness, and I just thought I could be one of those people to help usher that in to people that were more like me. Because back when I started doing this, nobody was doing this. Like, it was like, yeah, now now every band works out a little bit, which is fucking awesome because they should. But I started so I had that already going, but to really take that chance to like open my own spot and dedicate the time to that, I needed to not have to worry about Bleeding Through it all. Like, I couldn't be going away for like a month at a time or anything like that. And also like, that's what I did. So I wanted to establish that. But I also did a couple side project things. This band called Sorrows that turned into, or a band called Supperwell that turned into a band called The Iron Sun. And then when the Iron Sun started playing some shows, it started kind of getting like mildly popular. And I can remember playing one show where I'm like, okay, like got off stage. I'm like, I think it's time for Bleeding Through to come back. Yeah. Because it was like, I feel like it was getting that recognition because people were ready for Bleeding Through to come back. And I feel like I was right. So that was kind of like the trigger of that. But yeah, everybody else just kind of focused on personal life and getting that shit in order.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, obviously, because at the time, I don't want to ask how old you are now, but I mean, shit, I was like getting into my 30s probably around that time frame. So like I could see, you know, the shit or get off the pot type of moment of like, is this what we want to do? Is that what we want to do? Let's just take a break. You know, I get that.
We never were willing to take the step or were wanting to take the step to write a record that we were not okay with. You know, like I didn't want to work with producers that were like trying to introduce parts that weren't us. You know what I mean? Because I think that's what gets you in trouble. And like, I just didn't have the desire. And also like, I think I've talked about this a few times recently, but like, yes, we write this music for ourselves, but staying true to ourselves is also staying true to our fucking fan base that keeps us literally relevant. And it's like, I've never wanted to wrong them ever either, because people take pride in the music they listen to, and people also identify through bands. And it's like, I've known from being a band, like fan of so much music, to when they put out a string of bad records, it's almost like hurtful. You know what I mean? Like, dude, really? Like, the 10,000 people you're playing in front of tonight, you just decided to say fuck you, and now we're going to try to be a critics band? Like, come on. Like, at least give, like, progression is progression, and progression is necessary, but there's progression, and then there's a complete fucking Hail Mary. You know what I mean? And that's just that wasn't our vibe. Like with the new record, it's like there's progression, but it's still very Bleeding Through. You know what I mean? Like very, very much.
Interesting. How difficult is it to put a gym together?
I don't even know how the fuck I did it, dude. Dude, for real, like, it's pretty difficult.
It's got to be expensive, especially being in like Huntington Beach in California and stuff like that. Just the rent alone of the building.
When I first started getting into training, my mentor trained out of like a warehouse. It was my first time where I was ever in like a warehouse gym. And then kind of talking to him about the business of it, chose a warehouse because the rent is like minuscule compared to like a storefront or whatever. And you can kind of outfit it how you want, have your own vibe. And so I'm like, I want a warehouse gym. So there's that. And I luckily had someone that was going out of business in their gym and offered me to basically buy the equipment and all that they had for like pennies on the dollar.
Nice.
Now, I was lucky to have that, but there are also plenty of sites and businesses that sell gym equipment on pennies on the dollar where you could do it without that type of person. But luckily, I had someone that was just like, hey, this is failing. Like, do you want to move over? And that's when I had to take the step of pulling the reins back on Bleeding Through and do that, because that was my opportunity to open my gym. So like, it's tough, dude. Like, I thought having a band was tough. Like, owning a business is hard.
Oh yeah.
Owning a gym is like, it's really tough. But I love being of service to people. Like, I love like putting something together with them to empower more positive approach to life, more self-confidence, more like self-awareness. I'm better mental health. Like, I love that shit. Now, like standing up for 14 hours a day, having multiple conversations of different things at the end of the week, you're literally like, I don't even know what I'm fucking listening to, but like, I love it. Yeah, it's just like any business. It's tireless. You got to continue to like try to reinvent things here and there subtly, and never try to make things look too stale. Always try to learn and grow as a business. I mean, that's really just the biggest problem with it.
Yeah.
but it's tough.
Are you the reason why like Craig from Stray is like super into working out and like has his like supplement line now? Is that like your influence?
You know, it's kind of weird with Craig because when I managed Stray from the Path, he wasn't the drummer, but we became friends. We met each other in the UK like years ago. It was funny because when I just saw him like a few months ago, I literally was like grabbed his arm. I'm like, whatever, bro, like calm down. But he's rad. I mean, I don't know if I'm a reason, but I'm also one of these people that like, I think I've spent a lot of time like of my career, like not taking acknowledgement and being humble, like horribly humble. Mm-hmm. I'm still pretty humble, but like, fuck yeah, I'm probably the reason. Who else would be the fucking reason?
I don't know. He's like, he's selling supplements now. No. So, you know, he's stepping up in the
I would say that I'm definitely, whether he knows it or not, subconsciously, probably an influence of that decision.
Hilarious. Did Jake from August Burns Red reach out when he opened his gym to like ask you a question?
Yes.
Could assume.
Jake and I have known each other for a long time. I used to, when Jake decided to get into training, we actually did a collab. I used to write his programs. And then we decided to kind of just put our forces together and do like a video and in a program together. I don't really think anything really happened with that. But then my production company did his fitness clothing brand, which was eerily same as Rise Above. And then he decided to open a gym, which was eerily the same as Rise Above. And he's also the singer of a metalcore band that Bleeding Through took him on his very first tour in the band. And so for him to maybe, I don't know if he says that's a big influence, but for him to even maybe say that there's none, I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't talked to him about
I'm just giving you shit. I'm playing into this. I just want you to know that. Jake's rad. Do I think that I'm an influence to a lot of those people that are from this music industry that have gotten into fitness? Yes. I'll give myself that credit. And I worked really hard for that too. Cool. Like I wasn't just like fucking around, like putting videos online. It's like, I do this like 12 to 14 hours a day still almost every day.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see a lot of contents coming out from band guys. Like, you know, Brian from Shadows Falls got his, you know, metal yoga guy workout stuff, which is cool. And then
I think it's awesome.
Yeah. We posted about it. And I think I've tried to do a couple of his like, you know, little warm up gigs and stuff like that when I'm stretching or doing some like pre-workout stuff.
Yeah.
I'll throw those in there every now and then. It is kind of crazy to see how so many people in like the scene, I call it, you know, the heavy scene, have really kind of transitioned into getting more, at least thoughtful about being in shape or lifting or working out. Like I myself, I mean, I've only been lifting for about like a year now, but I did some like, you know, somewhat long distance running, like half marathon stuff previously before that. And, you know, being the owner of Lambgoat, like you were saying, you're always trying to mix it up and make it not stale and expand in certain ways. But like, I've thought about like, well, what if we do some kind of fitness based, video game based, you know, things that are adjacent to like heavy music, but aren't fully like, hey, now we're like full different outlet and we've lost all of our brand recognition and, you know, who we used to be. But like, there's ways to tie all that stuff in. Cause like you're playing certain heavy music, I'm sure, at your gym as Jake is. So like there's all sorts of, and I see band shirts that I know of, you know, at the gym all the time. And I always am like, hey, what's up? You like that album? You should probably check this album out too.
I'm stoked that Jake's doing this right now. Like, it's cool. Like, I mean, he's that type of person. You've got nothing but respect for that dude. And it's awesome. I think there needs to be more people in the music industry that kind of put fitness out there. Like I started doing a show on Metal Injection where I just interview fucking people in bands at my gym and shit. And it's like, I think there's just a need for like community, and it's a good thing for community, for like, even like all the people in bands and all the people in different like news outlets and shit like that and like sites. It's like, dude, this is like part of it. And it's like, it's a big connector and it's a big community base. I like it because I find in business, and like in my business, if I push myself physically harder, I will push harder in business. Like, it starts with my step forward. Like, if I try to sit back and take a fucking lazy day and give up on myself that day and and I know I need to like maybe get out and work out. If I refuse to take that little bit of time out for myself that day, my work is going to decline. I find when you push yourself and kind of reach the goals, you can push in many ways and goals. You know what I mean?
Of course.
I'm way too positive to be on your podcast, dude.
No, just because Lamb gets a negative comment section doesn't mean this podcast is a negative podcast, brother. We are hardcore and metal is uplifting and positive. So
I'm like negatively positive, like
it's good though.
Very snarky. Like I hate everything, but I love everyone at the same time.
That's kind of what I'm like. Like I'm 41 and I've been around a little bit, so like I know what I don't and do like, and I know that I can. Yeah. But I'm also not a dick, so I'll play around. I'll play around.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So I was talking. I talk to Josh every now and then because he's one of the guys. Like when we, I've always looked up to like Trustkill and Ferret because those are like the pillars of like my journey. I got in around that time and then had to like backtrack to like the early Victory bands and Indecision and all those stuff. So like, we started a little label, and again, I think we didn't put out 18 Visions Purgatorio, but we did some variants and stuff like that for them. But like, I've been relying on him for some input here over the years, but I was talking to him. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but he says that you guys have something in the, some stuff in the books coming up. So I don't know if it's a proper time for you to relay that or whatnot, but
we do.
Okay.
No, we do. We have a lot of stuff. Like, listen, like as much as I'm absolutely utterly sick of nostalgia, like I'm sick of it. Like
I feel you.
Like I get it, and I take major pride in the fact that like we're in a position where we can be a nostalgic band. But I will play into that a little bit. Like we'll play old stuff. Like we did our 20-year anniversary of This Love Is Murderous. We'll pay homage to records and do re-release and do like vinyl releases and different like things with it. But it's like I so want to move away from that. But with that being said, I think there's a place for both. And I think that should be celebrated by like bands like us and 18 Visions. You have the new shit, but you also are re-releasing the old shit because people want to know that, because a lot of people weren't around then. And if, like you said, if people do deep dive into that shit, even though there is like streaming services where you can literally find anything you want, physical copies and nostalgia for like a record is important to people. You know what I mean? And they like that shit too. So the things that we have in the works are all kind of like nostalgia based of former releases of Trustkill.
I gotcha. We'll leave it there.
So like, I don't want to like, because we are talking about like the new record, but like, the truth is coming up on 20 years, which is fucking nuts. That's nuts to me. This Love Is Murderous 20 years was nuts, but not that nuts. Like the truth to me is like, what the fuck? Like,
why is it so different for you? One's older, one's like years older. So you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're 3 years old. They're 3 years apart. I think the truth, we put so much work and effort into that, and the recording process was just kind of a nightmare. A lot of things were like just so weird that like, I remember someone saying like, oh, if it doesn't do 20,000 records first week, it's a disappointment. And I remember being crushed by hearing people say that and be like, dude, what the fuck? It just took so much out of us that, and I can remember all of those things like they were yesterday. Like all of those days, all of those phone calls, all the whatever the fuck. And just to think it's 20 years ago, like that's crazy to me. Yeah. It's crazy. Because I feel like that's when we were like, that's when this industry was really at like a peaking level. So it was like, dude, like things like getting flown out to New York City for like a press weekend. Like really, like what the fuck? Like that shit. That's why it was intense. Cause I'm like this fucking dork from Orange County. That's like getting flown out to fucking, hey, why don't you fly out to New York for a press weekend? Okay. You know
what kind of press are you guys doing in New York? Are you doing like MTV?
I don't know.
There,
our
obviously
press
at the
people,
time?
PR team was there. I mean, we were doing like radio spots because they still had radio spots for like a lot of like New York outlets out there. Magazines, so magazines I would go to a room and just be like one after another. And I don't know why they picked New York, but it was a lot of like UK press too. That was over there for that as well.
Interesting. Speaking of Trustkill and all that good stuff and Josh and whatnot, Furnace Fest came back. A couple other festivals have come back. He's kind of been like, not said anything for sure, but he's been promoting some Hellfest.
Oh, you don't need to say anything, Josh, bro. Come on. So you got to be a fucking idiot to not think that Hellfest is coming back. If we're a nostalgia-based genre of music, which we are, like, see, we're back to nostalgia again. You cannot escape it because we are underground music is, to me, it is stuck in the past. It's always going to be stuck in the past. It's always going to be like the last record was better. That was better then. That's just the way it is. It's like, to think that Hellfest wouldn't come back is just ridiculous. To think that Warped Tour wasn't going to come back. You better believe Ozfest is going to come back. Mayhem's coming back.
I'm waiting
like,
on
dude,
Ozfest.
It's every band is like, I'm sorry, but you guys posted something the other day, and I was gonna take a snapshot and be like, I can't remember, but it was like some announcement of this band doing songs for the first time in 15 years, and I'm just like, all right, dude, all right. Like, really?
Are you talking?
The next band that claims they're breaking up, and we rode the fence of breaking up so hard, like we just milked it, and honestly, like it's such a weird move for us, but like there's no reason for a band to ever break up anymore.
No, there's no breaking up. There's no breaking up.
There's no breaking up.
No.
There's no reason. No. So like, just everyone get back together so we can just get it over with.
Dude, so many bands that I grew up listening to that I was like, oh, they're playing this one-off show and they haven't played in years. I got to go see it. And then only to have them still playing today. You know what I mean? So like,
yes.
But I think I know the band you're talking about, and like that's one of my all-time favorite bands, so they can do no wrong. You know?
Who is it? Who am I talking about?
Poison the Well. I think they released their first new song in 15 years.
Those are my boys. We're good.
Okay.
I'll find it. Okay. I'll find it. Not right now, but I'll find it later.
That's hilarious.
I'll get it over to you. No, Poison the Wells. They're also a band. Like, what took you so long, dude?
For what? They were
to come back.
I don't know. I don't know.
No, I'm glad they're back. It's cool. It's good to have them.
Very cool. I didn't realize how big of a fan I was. I mean, they were, again, Hellfest. We were just talking about Hellfest. Not that they were scary there, but they were one of the big bands that I was really looking forward to seeing there too. I mean, because I'm from Florida, they're from Florida, and I grew up just fucking seeing them so prevalently. Evergreen Terrace and them played all the time, so it is what it is. But speaking of Hellfest, go ahead.
We just did that. Oh, go to Hellfest.
No. You do yours, and then I'll do mine.
So, it's okay. First, we'll go by Hellfest. If there is a Hellfest again, when there is a Hellfest again, we look forward to playing it one day again.
Are you going to be as scary as you were in the old? You guys were so scary on stage,
bro. I come across, my band is really nice. Like, we're a really nice band.
Performance-wise,
and I know nice doesn't really sell really well, but on stage we are not nice. Like, we are just as equally scary.
Yeah, it was rough. I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, don't get too close to the front.
Yeah. No, but when I was talking about Poison the Well, we just did Headbanger's Boat with them.
Yeah.
And they were a band it was interesting. That was the very first time that I've ever hung out with Jeff. Like, ever. Like, and you think it's weird because it's like, I hung out with them. We toured with them in 18 Visions when I was in 18 Visions, one of my last tours I did with them. So we got to hang out then, but it was so weird back then because it was like, they were the Trustkill band and their biggest selling band on Trustkill. Then Bleeding Through came along and we were the biggest selling band on Trustkill. And it's like, it built a weird like, even though like, maybe we didn't, and I asked him about this, like, did you feel like the tension and competition that was between our bands? And he goes, yeah, fuck yeah. And I'm like, so weird because it never even entered our thought like, oh, they're doing this, we got to do that. We were just like, why are we in competition with this band all the time?
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Same label, kind of like new, old, like this and that, but completely different scenes. We started this way, but then completely went like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
And I think because of that, like, we never really like had times where we like hung out. I don't know if it was subconsciously because we maybe thought we were in this weird competition for Daddy's Love or some shit like that or what, but for real, like it was weird. So when I was talking to Jeff and I'm like, dude, like we hung out on that boat. It felt fucking good, man. We had like a moment and it was like, I got to tell him like, yo, like, thank you for doing Poison the Well. Like, when Poison the Well was kicking off, that opened the doors for like growth of so many bands. Like, I look at bands that really were like the benchmark bands that really like, I felt like opened up the doors for like bands like Bleeding Through. And it was like Hatebreed, Poison the Well, Shadows Fall. Those three. Boom. There you go. Like bands that were metal crossover, hardcore crossover, they had fans. You know what I mean? Like when you started going to shows and being like, and you didn't know everybody there, and it was like, whoa, that's like a fan.
Yeah,
they're like wearing a Poison the Well shirt at a Poison the Well show. Like once you started seeing that, you're like, that's fucking crazy. And it's like, so it was really cool getting able to tell him that. And it's cool, man. And I'm glad they're playing again, man. It's cool.
Same. I think I had Chris on the podcast a couple years ago, and we talked about that. I think Jeff was going through some kind of like personal things, but I think the coming back of that band probably helped, and I think he's obviously done work on himself and for himself and everything like that. And I think they've now gotten to a place, because at the time when I was talking to Chris, this is years ago on the podcast, one of the first ones I ever did, I don't even think Poison Well was like even really doing much, and they had it was just starting to turn the page. And I think, much like you had that when it was time to come back, I think they've also had that like epiphany. And I think once you're back and you see like just like oh shit, I was wrong, my band isn't as small as I thought or sucked as bad as I thought, and you see the love and everything that you get, it really pushes you all. And I think that's something that Jeff also
does
probably experienced.
And one thing I think is really cool about like bands, especially bands in our era, is the amount of like kind of love we have for each other now. It's really awesome. Like, discovering our friendships again, reconnecting and all that kind of stuff, and just showing that support. I think that we're all in a better place in our lives to like not worry about anything else other than just fucking doing this band still and creating, memories with this and creating fucking like moments. And it's been really awesome. I think that's been a big difference. Like if you were to put all those bands on a boat like 15 years ago, like that might have been a big problem.
It could have been. I understand. I could see that.
You know what I mean?
Totally. No, I'm glad. And I'm glad also because back in the day when I was a younger, like late teenager, early 20s, I thought that you guys were like huge. Like all the bands I really liked, I thought they were so huge and so big, and all that you're touring, you're making all this cash and doing all this cool stuff. Ozfest sounds of the underground. I mean, like peripherally, like from the outside, that's what it looked like, right? And I'm only seeing magazine stuff, MTV videos. Like the internet's not prevalent back in the day, so no one knows your day to day. But then, like, God, where was I going with that? Oh, the world is small. The world was so fucking small back then, and it is small now too, even though the world's grown. You know what I mean? Like our little world has grown. The world is so fucking small. Like everyone knows everybody. Like you were in 18 bands. Everyone's in 18 bands at the time. You know what I mean? They're all, everyone's splitting time, doing all sorts of shit. And so it's really wild to realize like, damn, even 25, 30, 40 years later, the fucking world is tiny.
It is, dude. It really is, man. And like, here's the thing, like, how fucking here goes positive guy right here. Like, how awesome that we have this though. Like, a lot of people don't have something as special as this fucking community in their lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do like the darkest shit. Like people feel lonely every fucking day, battling through whatever the fuck they're battling through. We have this fucking shit, man. Yeah. We have this like. We have friends, we have this music, we have like people we can lean on, we have like other bands we could lean on, we have support, and we have this great thing that we get to come together and just like rejoice. It's almost like fucking church. Yeah. It's not. It's church with windmills. But it's like, it's just great that we have this. And I think that that's like a big thing too, just how grateful that a difference in bleeding through now. We're so grateful to still have this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Like, there was a long time with me where my mental issues were hidden from the world. I hid all of my bipolar shit from my band, and my way of coping with it was to isolate. And I would just isolate. Like I rarely was around. I didn't really talk to many. Like I had friends, but I wasn't really the one in a group of people talking. Right. I just was like, in a hard spot. And like, I just think now I'm at a different like spot. Like now I'm like a dude that like I'm hugger guy. Yeah. Like I'm like the hugging guy. Like I'm sorry, but if I see you, I know I'm gonna hug you, dude.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
Like
I think you get to a point though. You get to a point you're like that.
I never know when I'm gonna see that person again. And a lot of people that we see when we do this band, promoters, fans, whoever the fuck, like the time I've gotten to spend with them over the years, that fucking means something. And those are memories that I never want to forget and I don't want to take for granted. So that's, at least personally, that's what I mean. I just want them to know that we don't ever take this shit for granted. It's a fucking beautiful thing.
No, I mean, as someone who's kind of like grown up thinking that this was never going to last, and here we are 25, 30 years later.
Yeah, dude.
If not anything, like I'm more embedded than I was a fan, you know, like I started doing this podcast with Alex, 2019, and then 2022, we exchanged it, and now I'm the owner of Lambgoat, and, it's just like, as I've gotten older, I've just gotten fucking deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And it's like you said, it is something that I don't take for granted. It's something that I'm highly passionate about. I mean, I'm a music guy in general, so I like different forms of genres of music, but there is something so alluring and exciting about this little world that is so small and tiny. And again, I wasn't there for the beginning, like in the 80s and stuff like that. And I was there for certain peaks and certain pops of like this world, whether, like we were just talking about the 2000-ish time frame for like all these records and just popping, I got in right before that. And so I rode the wave, but then I also saw where like it kind of like was coming down a little bit. And then now it's bigger than it had ever been. So it's crazy. It's a crazy ride to watch and to be on.
And it's going to go down again and then it'll go up. And it's just this fucking wave, dude. It's just like, if you don't want to ride the wave, jump off the board, man. That's just what it is.
But that's okay. Cause it weeds out some people that maybe don't need to be a part of stuff. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, and like, kind of like furthermore, like about like people that like jumped off the wave and are kind of coming back and this and that, which is great. Like, whatever you got to do in your life. It's when people get grumpy about bands coming back, I'm always like, that's weird, because why would we not want this band to be playing? You know what I mean? I like this band. But I just ask these bands, please write a good record. Like, please be good live. Like, don't go out there and look like a bunch of fucking shot dads. Like, and I'm sorry to say it like that, but
I've seen it happen.
I've seen a lot of bands where I can't fucking wait. And then I watch them and I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, go out there. If you're coming back, like, go out there and take it fucking serious and come back better than you were before. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, that's the competitiveness in me, I guess. But I also want to see that for everybody else as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to break the door of nostalgia, you got to be a good band still. You know what I mean? Because nostalgia will be like, fuck, I'm not gonna light anybody up, but anyway, nostalgia could be like, oh,
dude, it's
they were
okay.
so dope for like the first show because people went nuts, and now they're trying to milk it, and now they're on their 20th show, and there's fucking 10 people there that don't give a fuck because they suck.
Right?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't do that.
Yeah,
just don't do that.
AKA Creed. I understand where you're getting at, brother. I understand.
And then, but it's kind of the way with like our new record, man. Like. I know that we're a little like, we think it's really great. You know what I mean? So far, what we've heard back from people is they also think it's great. But one of the things that, one thing I will say about it is, you're not going to listen to this record and be like, oh, yeah, they've lost it. You know what I mean? Whether you like it or not, like, the record fucking rips, and it's dark as fuck, and it's so us, like, purely just like the most us it's ever been. You know what I mean? And it's like, I hope when bands do come back, they put that in their mind and say, let's write a record that's going to smash everything else.
Yeah. Well, I hope some bands do come back, but I hope some bands don't as well. So there's that. But I've kept you for too long. I know you got a whole day ahead of you, Brandan, because you're like hours ahead of me or behind me. So, it's about 4:00 here. You got a whole afternoon ahead of you. I appreciate your time. I really do.
No
like I said, been a long time fucking listener of the band. So it's good to have you finally on after, 160 fucking something episodes. But,
well, dude, thank you for fucking supporting this band for a long fucking time, dude. Like, for real. Like, it was always kind of funny, like, the negative shit, but it was funny because, like, that's the best shit. That is the best shit.
Are you talking about the comments? Are you talking about the comment sections?
What's that?
Are you talking about comment sections?
Yeah, like, talking about Vanflips and yeah, exactly.
Well, you're on the Vanflip podcast now, so it's come full circle. You know, we're taking that term and making it positive.
It's crazy that we've actually been in 2 really horrible van accidents.
You're not the first one, though. You're not the first one that's been on the podcast that has endured such. But we're taking that term and making it positive, man. But
yeah, dude, thank you for supporting this band. You know, for all these years, it's like, you know, that's been something that's been really fucking cool, and we're very appreciative of that. And yeah, if people want to go listen to this new record, we'd be stoked. I feel that they'll like it. If you like Bleeding Through, you'll like it.
Yep, LP 9. Titled 9 comes out February 14th. You'll have to go to StubHub to get one of those album release show tickets because they're all sold out, and you'll have to pay more than face value. It is what it is. Brandon, good luck with everything. Good luck on the new album. Good luck with the gym still, and yeah, we'll be in touch, and hopefully I'll see you in the near future, maybe at Hellfest. Who knows, brother?
You'll see me soon, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Take it easy. Have a good one, bro.
All right, take care.